The Pale King is the source of many events in Hollow Knight. Since he is such an important character, we are going to talk about his origin and his legacy. In the beginning, there was a worm, a colossal serpent-like creature. The worm roamed the vast wastelands, its body large enough to carve paths through the mountains and deserts. It was a being of old, a creature from a time before the memory of the bugs of Hallownest. As time passed, the worm felt a call of change, a destiny that beckoned it towards the land that would become Hallownest. It was drawn to the area now known as the Kingdom's Edge, where it would undergo a remarkable transformation. The worm's body withered and decayed, and from the remains of its ancient form, a new being emerged. This was no longer a creature of earth and stone, but a being of thought and vision. The Pale King had arrived. With a body now humanoid, graced with a regal horned crown, the Pale King was a stark contrast to the worm's former self. His radiance shone like a beacon, attracting the bugs who lived in darkness and ignorance. The Pale King's arrival marked the end of an era and the beginning of a new age for the bugs of Hallownest. With his advanced knowledge and wisdom, he would soon establish a kingdom unlike any other the world had ever seen. With the transformation from worm to sovereign, the Pale King began his rule over Hallownest. His reign was marked by the enlightenment and the progress, as he bestowed upon the bugs of the land a consciousness they had never known. The Pale King's influence was profound, lifting the bugs from their base instincts and granting them higher thought and purpose. He promised them an eternal kingdom, free from the perils of the wilds and the chains of predestination. Under the Pale King's guidance, Hallownest expanded rapidly. Its borders stretched far and wide, encompassing various tribes and regions. The Pale King's rule brought about an era of prosperity and cultural renaissance. The Pale King was not only a ruler, but also an architect. He commissioned the construction of the Stagways, a network of tunnels that connected the farthest reaches of the kingdom. The trams and the intricate designs of the City of Tears stand as testaments to his vision and the craftsmanship of his subjects. The Moth tribe, once worshippers of the Radiance, abandoned their deity to follow the Pale King, drawn by his light and the promise of a new dawn. Even the mushrooms of the fungal waste, entities not easily swayed, recognized the Pale King's foresight and accepted his dominion. The Pale King's reign was a golden age for Hallownest, but it was not to last. A creeping darkness began to spread, a sickness that threatened to undo all that the Pale King had built. As the Pale King's era of enlightenment flourished, a shadow loomed over Hallownest. The infection, a virulent force driven by the Forgotten Radiance, began to seep into the minds of the bugs, threatening to return them to their primal state. The Radiance, once the deity of the Moth tribe, sought to reclaim her dominion over the minds of the bugs, manifesting as a blight upon the kingdom. The infection spread rapidly, consuming the wills of the bugs and turning them hostile, eroding the very foundation of the Pale King's eternal kingdom. In an attempt to save his kingdom, the Pale King conceived a plan to create the Vessels, empty beings devoid of will, mind, and voice. These vessels were born of the union between the Pale King and the White Lady, created to contain the infection and the radiance within their hollow forms. Among the vessels, one was chosen to be the perfect container, the Hollow Knight. The Hollow Knight was trained and raised by the Pale King to fulfill its destiny as the pure vessel that would seal away the radiance. The Hollow Knight was sealed within the Black Egg Temple, guarded by 3 dreamers who would lock away the temple and the vessel with their slumber. Lurien the Watcher, Monomon the Teacher, and Hera the Beast were chosen for the sacred duty, each making a sacrifice to become a dreamer. Despite the Pale King's efforts, the plan was flawed. The Hollow Knight was not truly hollow as it possessed a bond with the Pale King, a connection that allowed the infection to seep through. The seal began to weaken and the infection returned, more virulent than before, leading to the Pale King's disappearance and the fall of Hallownest. The legacy of the Pale King is a tale of ambition, tragedy, and the enduring hope of redemption for Hallownest. As the infection returned with a vengeance, the Pale King vanished from his White Palace, leaving behind a kingdom in disarray. His disappearance remains shrouded in mystery, with many theories suggesting he retreated into a self-imposed exile or was consumed by the very infection he sought to contain. Hera the Beast, one of the Dreamers, had struck a deal with the Pale King, her participation in the sealing of the Black Egg in exchange for a child. This child was Hornet, a fierce warrior and protector of Hallownest ruins, who plays a pivotal role in the events following the Pale King's disappearance. Despite his absence, the Pale King's influence persisted throughout the kingdom. His statues in the White Palace served as reminders of his once great rule. The king's molds and his wing molds continue to guard the palace, awaiting their king's return. The player character, or the Knight, is another vessel, born of the void in the Pale King's effort to save his kingdom. The Knight's journey through Hallownest is a quest to resolve the Pale King's legacy, facing the consequences of his actions and decisions. The Knight's actions throughout the game offer a chance for Hallownest to find peace, whether by containing the infection or confronting the Radiance. The Pale King's dream of an eternal kingdom may have been shattered, but the hope for a new beginning remains, carried on by the Knight and the other survivors of Hallownest. As the tale of the Pale King and Hallownest unfolds, the final chapter is not one written in stone, but shaped by the actions of the Knight and the denizens of the kingdom. The knight, a vessel like the Hollow Knight but untainted by affection, ventures to the ruins of Hallownest. Bearing the weight of the Pale King's legacy, the knight seeks to fulfill the purpose that its kin could not. The true antagonist of the story, the Radiance, is confronted in a climactic battle that will determine the fate of Hallownest. In the aftermath of the knight's quest, the echoes of the void resonate throughout Hallownest, heralding a new era for the kingdom and its inhabitants. Though the Pale King's fate remains unknown, his efforts to combat the infection are not in vain. The knight's actions, influenced by the Pale King's legacy, pave the way for healing of Hallownest. The Pale King's dream of an eternal kingdom is transformed, not just through the suppression of the Radiance, but in some endings, through the acceptance of the void. Hallownest's citizens, once bound by the Pale King's vision, now find themselves free to forge their own paths. As the void settles over the kingdom, the cycle of life and death, light and darkness, continues. New leaders emerge, and the story of Hallownest evolves, shaped by the deeds of the knight and the will of its people. Hallownest, once a land of ruins and whispers, begins to stir with life once more. The legacy of the Pale King, the Hollow Knight, and the Knight become legends, tales to inspire the generations to come. The saga of the Pale King concludes not with an end, but with a continuation, a promise that Hallownest's story is far from over. As the night fades into legend, the kingdom of Hallownest awakens to a future unwritten, ready to be shaped by the dreams and desires of all who call it home.